Hey Haley, how are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome. It's always good to see you, so that helps.
You too. Thanks for getting us together this morning.
Oh my God, I'm so glad we're able to do this because I was looking forward to seeing you again in person at some point in the near future as we work through our Vistage program, and that doesn't look like that's going to happen for a while.
I
So
know. I know. I think it's going to be Zoom calls for a minute.
yeah, I know you, and I'm glad I got to know you, but I want everybody else to know you because you're a lot of great things. I want everybody to know all of the things that you're willing to share from your, executive coaching to your real estate practice, which I've now done some diligence on and found out is like crazy successful. So just tell everybody a little bit about yourself. I will say that this is Haley Garcia. She's a fellow Vistage chair that I met through my Vistage training, which is kind of the first one of the steps in my expansion of my executive coaching practice. And we were in the same mini group of a very big group, and quickly became friends. I'd like to think,
We
and
did.
uh, and yeah, and now we're continuing to be friends, and we're working together. She's in Houston, all that stuff. So I'm so excited because I don't want too many other coaches in these videos because I don't want everybody to just hear about coaching stuff. But you are more than a coach. So all the other coaches I bring into these videos are people who are coaches plus something else. And you are a lot of something else. So tell everybody about your something else stuff.
Thank you. Gosh, what an intro. Let's see if I can meet those expectations. I have been a real estate broker for 20 years. So you were right. My real estate business is busy. It is busy. We take care of a lot of families moving and selling and, relocating, all that kind of stuff. I have a team of 8 people that I currently do not have. So I am the one-man show right now, which is really interesting. Um,
Back
but
to
yes,
basics.
yes. Oh, for sure. Back to the basics. And it's really good. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it's really good. So yes, the real estate business is very busy. I have it structured and have for about the past 10 years because I have been an executive coach for about 8 years of that for a company that specifically coached mortgage and real estate industry only. So I was really focused on those industry types when it comes to executive coaching, and it kind of wraps in life coaching and business coaching all in one. And then about 2.5, 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to broaden my spectrum a little bit. So I got a mindset coaching certification and my executive business coaching certification. And then obviously where you and I met, Jamal, was the Vistage Academy to be a Vistage chair, which is also great CEO, small business owner coaching. So all things coaching, I love. It is a secondary space for me. My first space is definitely being a real estate broker and coaching and growing my team. It probably about 10 years ago became apparent to me that I love real estate and I love helping people buy and sell properties, and I happen to be really good at it. And one of the things that makes me really strong in that arena is because I am a good coach. And when people buy and sell, they need coaching, right? They're looking for direction and coaching. So now that I have a team that's been with me I've had a pretty good sized team for probably 7 or 8 years now. It brings me a lot of joy to coach them and to not only teach them about all things real estate related, but also coach them to be better coaches to their clients. So on the business side of things, that's a little bit about me. I also have my yoga teacher certification, so I do that a little quasi on the side. I would not put me up against any major yogi by any stretch of the imagination, but I do love doing that.
Fallen triangle,
That's it.
maybe.
That's it. Yeah. It's a little bit more like a bow and arrow type of look with me, but it's all about the effort we give and not actually the results, right? So I do that. I'm pretty active. I love cycling. A year and a half, 2 years ago, I did a big 300-mile bike ride across Colorado, and that was a really big accomplishment
Wow.
for me. I also crossed the finish line and decided I never needed to do it again because I checked that box. So um, I love doing things, like that, kind of putting myself out of my comfort zone. I think when it comes to like just getting to know me as a person, anything I can do to put myself out of my comfort zone, I believe makes me grow and makes me that much better for all of my friends and clients and family. So, you'll find me doing random crazy things every now and again to push myself to the edge. Um, But other than that, I have 2 children. They both have 4 legs. I don't have any human children, and that is because I have really dedicated my life to my business and my clients, and just growing as an individual. I do live in the Woodlands, which is right outside of Houston. And
Gorgeous area.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. What else do you want to know? I mean, I could go on for hours about all the lessons in life and everything, but that probably gets a little boring. So
No, I think it's great, and I think we should jump into that.
yeah.
But let's see. What do you? So one of the things, like, these were. I think I'm gonna have to change the name of these because these are supposed to be like lunch dates.
Yeah.
And what I found, a couple of things, I've actually fallen short because I started, and we definitely should talk about this because we've talked about this before. I started going back to intermittent fasting because I cannot work out like I used to. I'm a people person, and so I found out through this process that my motivation to work out, part of it is me. I like to take care of my body, but a big part of it is I like the people at the gym, and I'm a bit of an exhibitionist. So I like to show what I'm doing, and I like to see other people what they're doing. And working out at home is not doing it for me. I'm just not as motivated, and so I'm trying to address my health through diet. And so I went back to intermittent fasting, which I know we talked about, which means that even when I do these lunches, like my lunch is an RX bar because I break my fast with like a protein shake or a protein bar, just because I just don't want to put a bunch of food in my stomach right to start. But I did bring a rosé cider.
Nice.
Because I know you like
you're
rosé.
ahead of me. I'm still on Starbucks this morning, so I will catch up. Okay. I will catch up.
Just so that people know that, like, I don't normally like have wine or whatever for lunch or with my lunch, but this is tough. This is hard.
It is.
Yeah, let your hair down. Let your hair down.
Right. Well, and to your point, what I think is so interesting in this time of COVID, it's so interesting to me, all the different things about ourselves that we are realizing. I think it's like across the globe, we all as humans are realizing, oh, now I see why I did X, because it filled this need in me. Because a lot of times we go through life and we do things and we think we're serving this purpose for ourselves. But in reality, I think COVID has made us slow down enough to dig a little bit deeper in the layers of the reasons why we do things and our habits and, everything that we create our life around, to go, oh, that's really interesting. I go to the gym because I love the connection aspect of it and the attention and like those are great realizations. It's really interesting. I mentioned, like, I'm the one-man show right now. And, when you've been doing an industry for 20 years in real estate, you kind of forget what it was like year 1 and 2. I mean, you really do, because so much has happened. And now that I'm like boots on the ground, like yesterday, I went and I took lock boxes off of houses and I left keys and I dropped off checks and I did like all this like running and things that I have not done in probably 12 to 13 years. And as I was doing it, I was like, wait a minute, maybe I actually really like doing this stuff. Like, what happened? How did I get away from the basics and the interactions with the people? Because at each house I was seeing my clients and I had such a great day, like talking and catching up and what's going on. And they were giving me a hard time because I was in jeans and a t-shirt and they're like, wow, we've never seen you outside of heels and full makeup. And, and I'm like, well, this is really me, and it made me happy. It was a good day. But it's really interesting, just like your gym, we're realizing these things being put into this new way of being. And I think a lot of good can come out of it.
I agree. I think, man, you've said so much that's triggered a couple of things. I'm gonna try to see if I can remember them all. I work backwards because I think I talked about this on another video with a friend of mine about the whole concept of gratitude through suffering and people getting, like, oh my God, am I supposed to be grateful that I'm suffering? No, you don't have to be grateful that you're suffering, but you can be grateful for the growth and the experiences and what you're discovering through the suffering. While you're at the same time being annoyed and upset and frustrated that you're suffering. Like, you don't have to be, oh my God, I'm happy that I'm isolated. No, I'm not happy I'm isolated, but I am happy that this isolation is making me slow down enough to notice things about myself that I was ignoring as I was running and running and running. So I'm glad you said that. And then one of the reasons why I think, this is I just really want to do this with you is because you and I are in similar position. And, I've been practicing law for 20 years, right? So I'm at the same point where my practice has grown to the point where I'm like, I'm the guy that's kind of way up here doing stuff for my clients, and I'm not doing all this stuff down here anymore. And now I'm doing some of that stuff because I don't have the access to the support I used to have. My clients are way more interested in leaning on me now,
Right.
Than they used to be, because they're like, oh my God, this is scary, and we trust you. Like, you're our guy. Like, we don't mind that you have help, but we need you right now. And that's a good feeling on one hand. It's a little frustrating on the other hand.
Oh yeah.
And then you can relate to this, because nothing against anybody who is a full-time coach or whatever they are.
Sure.
There's some people that's all they do, that's all they've ever done. Or at some point they retired their whole career and this is all they do. But we're in the boat of like actively running businesses that are in high demand. Like, my clients need me now.
Yes.
More than they always did, but like now they're like, oh my God, every day there's some sort of crisis or change or something they need me for. And I'm trying to do that while also growing my coaching practice, which is a challenge in and of itself. And I've discovered, because I used to envy the people that like, oh my God, they only do this one thing. That's all they do all day is this one thing. And they just coach all day, and they just get on LinkedIn and they write all these great posts and they're doing all this. But that's not me. It never has been me. It probably never will be me. And I think it's what makes me stronger as a coach is that I actually do have these day-to-day relevant experiences that I can bring in. Not to knock the ones that don't have that, because they have their own approach. But I want to kind of hear your perspective on that, because you are in the same boat. And and obviously your perspective is a little bit different because you're a woman. Not that
Whoa. We're going to talk about that too.
No, because I have a perspective that I know I would consider privileged in some ways as a man. So I'm not saying it as a negative thing. I'm not, I have some disadvantages too. I'm Black, so that's all a part of who I am. But I just wanted to hear your perspective as a coach who also is running a thriving business and a woman, because I don't want to assume it's the same as mine as a man, because there's stuff that you deal with in the world that I don't deal with.
Sure. No, I'm giving you a hard time, but I think it is.
You always give me a hard time, Haley. That's the genesis of our relationship.
But it's really, I see it as it's very wise and intuitive of you to bring that up, because every person in the world has a different perspective, and the gender perspective is absolutely very different. I see it as it really isn't all that different, but society has taught us that it is. But we don't actually talk about the reality of the differences to understand each gender's perspective. I personally feel like each gender has high expectations from society and the world to be and show up in a certain way. And yet, I think we sometimes criticize or resent the opposite gender because our perspective might be as though it's different and maybe it's easier or harder and we don't agree with the way each other shows up. But in the reality of it, it's all exactly the same. We just don't verbalize it and put it into language to where we hear one another. So it's a topic that literally I could go on for hours about. But that's why you're here. It's I think it's really interesting. And I actually I'm one of those females that I operate very much like a male. And I get criticized for that because I'm not emotional about things. I'm very pragmatic. I'm very, kind of black and white, and so I think I have a lot more empathy for men and the pressure that they feel because I feel it. And I also have the expectation of, oh, you don't have kids? Oh, you're not married? Oh, what? And I want to go, oh, and I don't go home and bake cookies every night either. You know what I mean? There's all these expectations for each gender and it gets really tangled and messy. And yet I think really the bottom line is if we each show up to the world authentically and with a level of vulnerability and we put it out there, then we are being who we should be. And whatever opinions of the rest of the world, whether it's people in different industries or, relationships or whatever, that's just their opinion and they have a right to it. and it doesn't need to impact us. But it's funny that you bring that up, because this morning on my leadership team meeting, we discussed Brene Brown's Daring Greatly book. We're doing a book read together as a team. And, she talks a lot about these specific things in Daring Greatly. So we can do a whole nother video about that one day.
I would love that.
But to your question of what exactly was the question again, Jamal? So I can make sure
I was just trying to, get your perspective on juggling these two things. Like, you are coaching, but you are running a high demand business. It's yours. Like, I'm sporting my EM3 t-shirt. This is my law firm.
Yes.
And, I'm the E,
Right.
And it's in high demand. And how are you balancing that? And, do you find it as a strength or weakness, that kind of stuff? Like, how are you dealing with that?
Thank you for bringing me back home, because I go down these rabbit holes. So I feel like my perspective on it changes every day, to be quite honest. I love the coaching world. I love it. I love showing up for people. I love holding space for them. I love helping them go down their own path of learning what direction they want to take in their life and business. That is a piece that, like, innately as a human makes me very happy to be able to hold space for another human and help them find direction. That being said, that is something I love. It is not something that I pay all of my bills, or I employ 8 people and help them pay their bills with.
Right.
So there's that aspect of me where I think this is a good example of the male-female perspective. I very much run a business and I employ people, and that takes money and finances. So the coaching space is something that I personally have looked at as, it is something I love to do. And it's kind of a passion project, if you will, right? It's not necessarily a project. I mean, I've been a coach for 10 years and I've made 6 figures and more doing it each year, right? So it does bring income, and I love doing it. But in times like this, just like you and your law firm, my real estate clients are also in crisis, right? They are losing their jobs. They cannot make their mortgage payments. We are having to sell properties. Like, there's a lot of stress that have to do with immediate needs of people, just like you. So it really has become my focus. I kind of sort of overcommitted myself in the coaching space, to be quite honest, because at the beginning of COVID, I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to hold space for all of my coaching clients. And the ones who can't afford it, that's okay, right? Because a lot of them have lost their jobs and they don't know if they're going back. And there's, all those things going on, the same as everybody in the world. So I offered to do peer advisory virtual calls for about 30 people every 2 weeks. And that might have been an overcommitment on my part. But my intention was really good, right? My intention was, I want to hold space and I want to show up. And I also want to give everybody a connection with each other to be able to brainstorm in these times. Like, how can we bring our businesses back online? How can we work through these challenges? How can we make money and try to keep the doors open when things are shut down? There's all those things going on. So I'm holding space for those groups, and I am doing it. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. It's why I have bags under my eyes, and I've been working 7 days a week, and that's okay.
You look great.
Well, thank you. But to your point, my perspective on it is, for you and I as business owners and coaches, it is a balance, and only we as individuals can decide if it's a 60-40 ratio, if it's an 80-20, if it's a 90-10, and whatever feels right to us and to the client in front of us, whether it's a coaching client or a law client or a real estate client, I think only we can make that decision. And there's really no right or wrong answer, in my opinion. It's whatever works for us and the clients, and how much bandwidth we can share with everyone. And I also see it, and I know you can probably resonate with this, but when I show up as a real estate broker and when you show up as a lawyer, we want to give them our best. And when we show up as a chair or a coach, we want to give them our best. So we have to do a really good job of internally checking in with ourselves to go, how much bandwidth do I have to be able to give my best? And where do I have to say no? And that's a personal question and answer.
I love every bit of it. And I think, I personally think you're right. I mean, because that's the way I look at it. I'm like, I'm adjusting my balance. I had, as I think I told you, like, actually, this is perfect timing. When I decided to kind of expand my coaching practice and do Vistage, I was starting to retire my law practice. March 1st, I was like, you know what, this is the beginning of retirement for Jamal. And I told my partners that, and, you guys are going to step up and I'm going to step back, and my clients are going to adjust and they're going to go work with other people. And I'll be here, I'll be available. But, over the next 2 years, I'm slowly supposed to be ramping this down. And so the balance was supposed to be going like this, coaching up here and law down here.
Yes.
And who knew, because we left Vistage Academy in February, half of us sick. I still believe we had COVID.
I do too. I totally feel that all of you guys had Corona. I really do.
Right. I've never seen anything spread that quickly amongst business people. It wasn't like we were like at a social event, we were hugging and kissing, and people didn't even have time for any of that kind of stuff. We were working so hard.
Yeah.
And so, here comes coronavirus, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I think I got to pivot a little bit. I don't want to give up my commitment to, building my Vistage groups and expanding my coaching practice, but I got to pay respect to this career that I've had for 20 years. It has provided me a lot of everything, whether it be money, freedom, experiences, it's, whatever, and reward, because I've enjoyed helping my clients and vice versa. So I have to pivot. And so maybe, 80-20 isn't going to be it. Maybe it's going to be 50-50 or 60-40, or who knows what it's going to be. But every day I have to reevaluate that and say, because as much as you are entitled to move on and to grow, gratitude. Like, I can't be ungrateful to this career I've had, for this amazing career that I worked hard to get and to grow and be successful at. And it's been good to me. So I think a lot of folks, and the folks are struggling with that right now. Everybody made these plans, like 2020 was supposed to be like everybody's big year to do whatever, new beginnings. I mean, I can only think of a million churches that 2020 is like the new era and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden here comes coronavirus saying, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But
think about it. Coronavirus actually is pushing us into a new era.
I agree.
It really is.
It just doesn't look the way we thought it was going to. Right. And it might not look like the new era we thought it was going to be, because it's forcing us to really, reevaluate every priority, from the personal connections to the professional networks and everything like that. So it is a new era, to be sure. Like, but that whole idea, I guess I want to hold a little space for people who, who made these plans. They might be feeling bad. Like, I don't want anybody to feel bad that, oh my God, you made this commitment to branch into this new thing, or to do this other extra stuff, or maybe to work not as hard, or whatever it might be, or maybe to work harder and whatever. And then this experience is making you reevaluate that. That's, this is life. Like, it's called a pivot. Like, get on your tippy toes and pivot, whatever way you got to go, and just move, but keep going. Right.
No, you're absolutely right. And I love the pivot language. I actually have been sending the GIF of the Friends episode where they're pushing the sofa up the stairwell, and Ross is yelling pivot. Like, it's one of my favorite episodes of all time, because I feel like that's our life right now. Like, it's like you just continually have to yell to yourself, pivot, because it's what we're having to do. And, I want to touch on something that you said in regards to gratitude for your law practice and your business that you've had for 20 years, because I think that is such a huge piece. And what I would add to that is, I too feel gratitude for my real estate practice for 20 years, right? Like, it's been amazing. And I truly believe that you and I have had successful careers for 20 years because we have shown gratitude along the way to all the clients that have given us the business and trusted us to take care of them, right? And so I see it almost as, you and I had this discussion when we were in California about it is going to be, okay, it's 80-20, because I too was stepping out of my real estate business quite a bit. I have an amazing team and they were doing a lot. And it was to the point where I was like, okay, I'm really going to coach more and I'm going to sell less. And I, just like you, am that it's obviously tipped upside down, and I'm 80% real estate. And just like we talked, I'm enjoying it. I really am. And I'm super grateful that I still have this huge book of clients that trust me to guide them on the real estate decisions, just like I'm sure you feel the same about the law firm. And it's that moment where I think it's really important for everybody who is having to pivot to not allow the pivot to hit us in our self-worth as though we weren't
Right.
good enough to get something done or to start something new or to change the ratio, because it has nothing to do with our self-worth. And I innately am a very strong person internally. Like things don't hit me a lot on my self-worth, but I have noticed in this COVID time where I'm like, gosh, I mean, maybe I'm not strong enough as a coach. Maybe I really need to just stay in real estate. And then I have to
Oh,
do that reality test, right? Like, wait a minute, Haley. But my point is, everything will try to attack our internal self-worth when we can't achieve something that we wanted to achieve. And so I think it's super important that everybody as a collective human race do a check-in on, wait a minute, if I lost my job and I got laid off, it's not because I wasn't good enough. It's not because
right,
I didn't perform well. You know what I mean? If
right.
I'm having to pivot in my career decisions, it's not because I suck at this other one, so now I got to go this direction. It's because Corona is changing the era we live in and we have no control over that,
Right.
right?
Right. And all of us, I mean, nobody's exempt from suffering through this. There's no amount of money has been shown by the folks that have died and had family members or had to be quarantined. There's no amount of money, fame, or fortune or power. I mean, Boris Johnson was quarantined and in ICU for a while. I mean, there's nobody that's exempt from suffering from this. The question is, how are you going to suffer? Some folks are going to be in the hospital suffering. Some folks are going to be in unemployment line suffering. Some folks are going to be suffering through homeschooling children,
Right,
which I
right,
am doing because
right.
I'm not a homeschooler. I love my kid and I think I'm good at being a dad, but I'm not built to be a
Oh,
homeschooler.
I don't know how the
Um,
parents are doing it. I really don't. I mean, it blows my mind.
Rose.
Yeah. It's a good time today.
But yeah, we're all going to suffer some way. So yeah, not to take it personally, like it is not personal. Like you are just having your experience of suffering that will lead to your experience of growth. That's great for you. Whatever your spiritual trajectory is going to take you down that path. But everybody else is having the exact same thing. From the royals in England
Yep,
are struggling.
yep.
There's no one exempt from suffering as a result of this virus. So it is not personal. You
No,
can't take it that way.
it's not. And I think, I don't know if this is just me, but I personally, for some reason, find a lot of comfort in knowing that we are all in this together. Like that there is no one isolated from this experience. And we are all in this together. And for me, that is comforting because I guess I attach to there's safety in numbers, and there's also collaboration and ability to really grow and come out on the other side stronger through numbers and through seeing this as though we are all in this together. So it's why, like, you putting a call together to get us together, I thank you so much for that, because just our conversation together makes me go, yeah, you know what, I do feel better about this. This is good. Like, we're in this together and we can do
Right.
this. So I think it's really important that for everybody while in isolation, like, we have to connect and we have to remember across the globe, we are all experiencing this together.
My friend Cher, I did a virtual lunch with her a couple of days ago. I went to law school with her. I've known her since the very beginning of our careers. She's a lawyer. She also she runs a TEDx brand in Chicago, and she's a poet and published books. She's like
Oh,
you,
wow.
like
Yeah.
just
Amazing
Renaissance
lady.
woman.
Yeah.
And she threw out this. She said something, and it stuck with me. She said, the coronavirus is striking at the Achilles heel of humanity because it is striking at our need,
Yes.
our undeniable need to connect. And then I thought about it a little bit more carefully. I'm like, in fact, it's hitting our Achilles heel, the Achilles heel of humanity, but it is actually our humanity that is the way it's attacking us. Like, it's the fact that we're human, susceptible to diseases and viruses like this is how it's getting us. Because, like the flu, like there's no such thing as somebody who's completely immune to the flu. I don't care how many flu shots you get.
Right.
It is a part of the human condition to be susceptible to diseases and viruses. And so it's getting us through our humanity, and it's striking at the very essence of what it means to be human, that you need to be connected. We're not robots. We're not even animals. We're humans, and we need that human connection. And it's teaching us to appreciate that connection, because now that we don't have it as much, we all crave it and desire it and respect it and appreciate it. So,
So
yeah, I
true.
mean, it's again, I'm not grateful for it. I'm pissed off at
Sure.
whoever did this. I don't like you. I have nothing good to say about you. I won't wish you harm because that doesn't do me any good, but I sure as hell don't like you. Um, but I am grateful for the fact that it's reminding me how much I need human connection, because I had gotten to the point where I really had to start thinking, oh, I could just text you and, oh, I'll send you an email. Why are you calling me? I used to say that sometimes in my head.
Right.
The phone would ring. And I'm like, why is this person calling me? You could just send me an email. And now I'm like, would you stop emailing me? Pick up the phone,
Yeah.
or send me a video message or
So
connect
true.
with me on Zoom. I just did a video yesterday with a vendor to my firm. And because I've done so many Zoom calls now, and we set up this call and I went and got on Zoom and I'm waiting. And I'm like, are you joining the call? And she's like, oh, I didn't think we were going to do a Zoom. I was just going to call you. And I was like, why would we do a conference
Yeah.
call? Like, can we do a Zoom call? And she
I
was
want
like,
to see
oh, I
your
didn't think
face.
you would. Yeah, she's like, I didn't think you'd want to do that. I was like, yeah, because I don't see humans
Right.
anymore except
Right.
for this way.
Right.
So it is teaching us to appreciate connection and each other a lot.
It
I
is.
wanted to ask you something,
Yeah.
because when I was walking around Austin, and I saw all the continued real estate activity a couple of weeks ago, I scratched my head and I was like, why are people having open houses? I wouldn't go in an open house right now. And why are people building houses? Who's buying a house? I just had this idea in my head thinking, like, what the heck are people doing? And then I, of course, have some real estate friends who are reminding me, like, folks made plans before this happened. Folks are doing it because this happened. I'm just curious, like, what is the real estate market like right now with coronavirus? Like, what is it like? What's
It is
driving it?
it is very busy. I think there's multiple things driving it. If you're a buyer, you're being driven by rates are really low and you can potentially get some really good deals right now. So there's a couple of strong reasons that are making buyers buy. You also, just like your friends have said, I have people moving into our area that got a job transfer, and the job transfer is still on and they got to move their family, and get situated and get settled. So there are plans in place that have to happen, and people's lives still go on no matter what goes down. I've been selling real estate since 9/11 happened. I was selling real estate in 08, 09, and all the in-betweens. And lives continue. And I think that's a really good thing to remember for all of us. Like, life will go on, and that is seen in the real estate market. A lot of stuff on the seller side, people are putting their properties on the market because none of us know what the future holds as far as the market. None of us know how much the oil impact or the corona is going to really shift our economy. And I think we all know realistically there are going to be some shifts. We don't know how long, we're going to take a dip, but there will be some dips seen in multiple different areas. And so a lot of people are either downsizing because they want to lower their expenditures. Some people might have properties that they're worried won't sell in a down market. And so if they started thinking about, like, I have several clients right now that are almost to retirement, and they're like, Haley, we were going to sell in like a year, but we think we want to put it on now because maybe we need to kind of beat the dip in the market.
Right.
So there's a lot of uncertainty driving people to make real estate moves. And I think one of the really important things that I always remind my team is that in the world of real estate, you 90% of the time, outside of some small investment deals, are talking about people's safe haven, and you're talking about people's home nest, right? And as much as we all want to go, oh, that's not really what it is, it's just a house or whatever, our home, as we've all seen right now, is really our center of grounding. And so when people are making decisions to make moves during times like this, it's usually because they have to, and there's a lot of people that have to make moves. So that's what's going on. It's busy.
Yeah, I just remember just walking around and being like, what are these people doing? I mean, I see open house signs. I'm like, who would, but people need to move or they need to sell. They just have to do it because, there's all these other factors. And so I think it's an important reminder that even though we're slowing down, we're not stopping. Like, life is still going on. Nature's still doing what nature does. Life is still doing, people are still getting sick for other reasons. Folks are still trying to find jobs for other reasons. everything is still going on, which in some ways is, some of the reasons are sad and unpleasant, but there's some pleasantness in knowing that life is still going on. Like Corona can't even stop that,
Yes,
like it can't
absolutely.
completely shut down our lives.
Absolutely.
All right. So through my three things, I want to try to really bring these a little bit more into the, educational space for people.
Okay.
And so I started just this morning thinking, okay, let me make sure I cover at least three things with everybody to do these. Because sometimes the chats, I love to talk. You know how that goes.
Well, me too.
Right. And then they were like, oh my God, we were okay. It's time to go.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get what I really wanted to get. So my three things I want to get from everybody, and you get to be the first person, which I think you'll do a phenomenal job at, are how are you coping?
Okay.
You, not your business. And that's one thing I'm trying to remind people. Like I want to know about Haley. I know a little about Haley now. So Haley, how is Haley coping? How is Haley growing? And how is Haley planning to kind of carry whatever she's learning through this experience into her future?
Okay. I jotted them down so that I don't go down a rabbit hole.
I got them jotted down too, so go for it.
So how am I coping? I am coping by, I have gone back to my daily meditation, which I have found is extremely hard and so great when I complete it because it actually clears my headspace. So I'm doing that. I'm also coping by, I talked my trainer to come to my garage and do my training sessions. That is really huge for me. And I'm so grateful for him doing it because I, like you, have a Peloton, but I am so not motivated to get in there and do it by myself. But when I know he's coming, I'm like, okay, let me jump on and I'll get ready. And then I'm going to work out with him. Right. So I need that accountability. Yeah. So that's really helping me cope. And the other thing that I'm doing personally is I am just on a daily basis reminding myself that the shifts and the changes, I'm a naturally very busy person. I like to stay very busy and constantly drive myself to do more. And in this current state, I'm busy, but I'm not driving myself to do more. There are times where I have the opportunity on the weekends to sit outside on the patio with my dogs and just be. And I'm doing that more, which I actually really enjoy, surprisingly enough to myself. But it's helping me cope. It really is. It's like finding the balance in between the busy and caring for others and yet caring for myself is really helping me cope. So
two follow-ups on that, if you will. First, I'll work backwards so I don't forget because this is working for me. So, my coping is, I'm giving myself permission to be a bum. When I otherwise used to beat myself up about it, I struggle with that. I struggle with slowing down and saying it's okay to veg out on the weekends. I struggle. I always feel like I need to be doing something. I'm a dad, so I feel like I need to be figuring out some kid stuff, or I need to be I could be billing some extra hours or creating a new initiative for the firm, or I could be emailing coaching clients or whatever. And now that I'm like, well, you know what? Everybody's pretty much just stuck in their houses and laying on their sofas on the weekends. So it's okay to do that for the weekend. And it's been great for my body in terms of just letting my body rest and rejuvenate. So I wanted to share my coping aha. And then I wanted to ask you about meditation because I meditate as well. And I used to resist meditation because I would feel like I wasn't doing it right. Like you hear all these videos and podcasts and they make it sound like this super complicated thing, like, and of course, focusing on your breath, but you're like, I couldn't shut my mind down. And then I found like, okay, but slowing my mind down is still meditating. Focusing on my breath is still meditating, even if I'm not like getting to this Zen Nirvana state where I'm floating in the sky. Just taking that 15 or 20 minutes is still good for my body and my mind and my spirit. So I wanted to ask you what your meditation practice is. Do you use an app, a tool, a podcast, a video, or do you just like chant in front of a camera? What do you do?
No, so I do two different things. I have the Muse meditation headband, And it's the headband that you put
Oh,
on and it
you
measures your
told
leg
me
space.
about that in California, and I didn't
So
listen. I
great.
should have gotten one. I think I put it in my Amazon shopping cart. I'll probably not get it till next year at this point.
Yeah, I know. It's really great. I'm glad I got it pre-COVID, because it, for people like us that have very busy minds, what it does is when you're starting out, you hear thunderstorms. And then the goal is to quiet your mind enough where the thunderstorms dissipate and you start hearing chirping birds. So sometimes I don't really feel like it's true meditation because I feel like I play mind games with myself. Like I'm like, find the birds, find the birds, find the birds. And I'm like, you're not really meditating because you're so focused on finding the birds. But you only find the birds when you calm your headspace. So I love it. It's great. I probably do it 4 to 5 times a week. And then other than that, I listen to Deepak Chopra's meditations. He has guided meditations and he aligns them with the 7 spiritual laws. And I love his
Meditation
voice.
is his answer to everything.
Oh, it's
Every
so
problem
great.
you present him with, what should you do, Deepak? Wayne Dyer used to did a video teasing him. He's like, I called Deepak. I was having a hard time. And Deepak, meditate. No, but what about this? Meditate.
It's true. It's true. But he's really great. And the thing I love about his guided meditations, he aligns them with the 7 spiritual laws. So it's like every day that I do it, he's giving me something else to consider that may not have crossed my path that day. Right. So whether it's a piece of gratitude or, understanding the abundance in the world or, whatever the focus is for that day. And then he kind of takes you through like a Sanskrit mantra, which if you do any yoga, that's kind of tied together, and it soothes my brain. It really does. So between those two, that's what I do.
All right. Number 2, how are you growing? What do you feel like this is birthing out of you?
So much, so much. So I am growing in the aspect of, first of all, I think really getting back to the basics in my business has made me grow in appreciation and gratitude for my team members, right? Because it's reminded me how much they really have been doing when I think sometimes I might have forgotten. So it's really helping me strengthen that piece of gratitude and realization of all the work that's done. I also think I'm really growing in the way that I mentioned earlier of I innately am, if I can't make something a top-notch success, then I would internally go, well, what did I not do good enough? Right? Like where did I miss the mark? Because I should have been able to do this. And so it's making me grow personally from a perspective of, you know what, there's some things I can't do right now, and that's okay. And it's that acceptance and that learning that I don't need to go into overdrive mode to figure out how to fix this because hello, I can't, right?
Right.
Even to the point where I had a client call me the other day and he was losing his mind over his house not selling. And in the moment of losing his mind, he was blaming me. And, well, you haven't done this and you haven't done that, and just really going off on me. And normally I would get super defensive and be like, wait a minute, buddy, let me check you because I have done all these things and you need to stop talking to me like that. It was a real growth moment for me because I paused for a minute and I said, I hear you. And I understand that this is coming from your place of fear and financial burden that is really concerning you. And I get that. And I'm on your team and I'm working with you to help you sell it. And I want to sell it just as much as you do, but you can't talk to me as though this is my fault because it's not. And then we ended up having this amazing conversation and he calmed down and he realized, he was in that moment of fury. But for me, it was a real growth moment because it helped me have that ability of not only did I take it personal and get defensive and go, but wait a minute, let me tell you all the things I do because I'm the best. It didn't do that to me. I was able to filter through it and go, this really isn't about me. This is about his fears and his burden right now. And let me show him space, which is coming from the coaching world, but it's really hard to coach ourselves. Right. But that was a growth moment. Like I hung up the phone and went, okay, that was really good, Haley. That was growth. Like keep up with this. This is good stuff. So that's another way. There's so many, right? There really are. I could talk about it for days. I could talk about the growth in my relationship with my boyfriend that, if you're quarantining with somebody, that's a whole nother topic.
Of course.
So there's a lot. There's a lot of growth. I'm innately one of those people that always looks for the growth in things, but this has really slapped you in the face with all the opportunities to grow. So I've been working on kind of like, journaling at night, like here's all the things I've realized today. And the list is long.
I was almost going to say my response is going to just be ditto, because literally it's a ditto to everything you said. But then you said one little thing that I'm like, I want to throw in something on, which is the journaling. This is more, it may be relevant. I don't want to gender stereotype this, but for me as a man, I used to struggle. The idea of a journal, all the crazy stuff in the back of my head about diaries. Still to this day, I just remember my sister, I had a little sister, she had a diary, but I was told by my well-intentioned, well-meaning, middle-aged Black parents who just were not raised that way, that boys don't have diaries, they don't have journals. And so I just went all my life resisting this idea of writing down my daily activities, because that just was like a diary, and boys don't do that. And I still struggle with that. And so I finally decided to break free from that. And for anybody who struggles either because you don't like handwriting, also my handwriting is horrible, number one. So I probably shouldn't be writing. And I kind of have a little bit of carpal tunnel or arthritis. And so my response and the way I've done, because I also do a little bit more gratitude journaling than I used to. And the way I journal is I talk. I do a voice memo into my phone.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Because I love to talk. I don't have a problem doing that. And so I literally just grab my phone some nights before I go to bed, and I talk as if there's somebody listening. So here's what happened today. And oh my God, I can't believe this happened, whatever. And someday I'm going to hopefully find somebody to string it together and, help me write my memoir, because I've had some crazy stuff in my life. But for anybody who's struggling with journaling, and because you just don't feel like, there's some folks that totally teach that the writing, and it does. There's something cathartic and with the handwriting. But if you just can't, like, again, don't beat yourself up over stuff that you're just not good at, or you're not, kind of predisposed for. I just pick up my phone and I just voice memo it, and I date it, and I put it in my little, I upload it to my little Dropbox. I have a whole little Dropbox folder of, I call it my journal. And that's how I've been journaling, and that's kind of how I've been growing, because I've given myself permission to accept that, Jamal, you don't have to deal with that. Like, this is in a box. It wasn't right. They meant well, but I'm never going to suddenly become the guy that's going to have a diary or a journal and be writing. But I can definitely be the guy that can talk to my phone.
That's awesome. I love that idea. That's so great. And you're right. There's a lot of stories that we tell ourselves, and there are always ways to reframe our stories.
And that's what you got to do. Like, you are the author of your own story. And if you don't like a chapter, you rewrite it.
That's it.
Right. Rewrite it, re-edit it, throw it away if you need to, because your book doesn't end until you stop breathing. So you always have the opportunity to write another chapter. Last thing before I let you go, because I know you're so busy. How are you going to carry this forward? How are you carrying this forward? Because at some point this is going to end. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way it was. But I do think the new normal is, even though it'll be different, I think it actually will be better. Different is not bad. It can actually be better. How are you going to carry some of the stuff that you've learned from this experience forward?
It's a really great question. I have a lot of things within business that I am changing that have to do with like fundamental pieces of the ways we do business that I'm going to carry forward in changes, all having to do with, technology and the virtual meetings and the expectations of the clients and all that kind of stuff. So that part is good, right? I think there's a lot of things we can all take from ways we do business to streamline and be more cost effective and all of that. On the personal side of things, if I wrapped it all into one thing, I think the biggest thing I'm going to carry forward is self-compassion. Because I have always struggled with the expectations on myself being so very high, and not really for any person other than myself, but then for some reason thriving off of the feeling of I've never hit the mark, and so let me just keep trying. And I don't want to live that way anymore. I really want to show myself more self-compassion and understand the things that I can be in charge of in my life, and let go of all the things that I am truly not in control of, and find peace within that. And that probably is the biggest thing that I'm going to take forward, outside of, a bunch of little logistics, right?
Sure. So talk about compassion. Self-compassion is for sure. I'm learning that, but I've already started making a commitment to be more compassionate toward others. I don't think I'm ever rude or mean, but I'm a lawyer. And I was trained as a litigator, so I can be ruthless. I can
Yes, you
be
can.
a jerk. There's some times I've been on, and I've listened back to some conference calls I was on, or people have read back to me something, and they're like, "You just cut them to shreds," and did they need all that? And even with my law partners, we have disputes sometimes about how the firm is being run and whatever. And there's times some of them have been kind of mean to me. I'm not going to ever accept people being mean to me and be like, that's fine. But,
Right.
returning it back, I just have gotten to the point like, you know what, Jamal, like, you never know if you're going to ever get to talk to these people again. You never know if we're going to be back in a situation where you can't hang out with them or connect with them. So you know what, just find a nice way to say whatever you got to say, or learn to keep your mouth shut. So I have gotten better at, like, I've actually apologized. I backed up and said, hey, look, let me tell you guys, because there was a point where they were getting on my nerves, and I was like, you know what, I could just leave. Like, retirement can be like that. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to step it back. I really want to help. And I'm going to do that in every area of my life going forward. I'm going to try to remember that these connections that you used to take for granted can be taken from you.
Yeah.
So appreciate them and be kind to them. And even if the kindness is simply being like, you know what, I'm not going to respond to that mean, hostile, nasty thing you just said to me.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you how stupid you are because I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go as far as, trying to, get people like I used to,
Right.
because you just never know when you're going to need those people or not be able to have them again. So I'm committed to that. That's
I
my
think that's great.
carry forward.
I love that. I love that. I think it, what you said makes me think of just overall empathy, and I think going back to the beginning of our conversations about the gender differences and the expectations, if we all could go through every conversation and every interaction with empathy for the person in front of us, with the mindset of they have a story and they have pain too, and we just don't know what it is, and they have fears that are driving them to say and do what they're doing, and it has nothing to do with us,
Right.
then our interactions with one another would be so much more productive and kind and compassionate as humans. And I do think that is one really great thing coming out of COVID. I do, because think about all the different social media posts and things we've seen where people are singing across the balconies to each other, and the healthcare workers are helping each other, and people are pulling together. And we don't pull together when we don't see each other through eyes of empathy. So you're absolutely right. I think that's a great one. I'm going to add that to my list of self-compassion, because now self-compassion sounds really selfish.
No, but if you can't give it to yourself, so that's why I'm like, I gotta, I didn't want to copy what you said, because I'm like, I gotta do that part too. But you got to start with it for yourself. If I can't be kinder to myself and more compassionate, then it'll never last with anybody else, because you can't give what you don't have.
Right.
You just can't. It's a law of the universe.
And that is what makes you an amazing coach and lawyer. And that last part's hard for me to say, but.
Oh, well, the feeling is entirely mutual, as you know. And I am so glad we finally got to do this, because I know you were so busy and we didn't get to do it as soon as I would have liked, but everything happens for a reason, and this is the perfect time. I think the context and everything. Yeah. So
I love it.
So listen, we'll do it again, because we have a lot to pick up on, but I don't want to take too much of your time. I want to say thank you.
Absolutely. Right back at you, brother. Thank you. And do me a favor and keep posting on social media all of your amazing posts and pictures of your boys, because them sleeping the other day, your son on the sofa and your dog right there, I just cracked up laughing. It totally made my day. So thank you for sharing your pieces of life with us, and please keep doing it.
I appreciate it. It's again, from this experience, because I'm sitting here thinking, I got this big old house. I'm in the guest house, and they constantly come in here all the time. And I'm like, but that's where and what a great feeling to realize. I'm like, I think the post I ended it with, they could be anywhere in thousands of square feet, but they're underneath me. I guess that means they love me, and they do. And that is if you can find one person where you can say, I got clear evidence that this person, this being loves me, that's a reason to keep going. That's all you need. Like my son and my dog, they love me. They'd rather
Absolutely.
be with me than anybody else. They could go anywhere right now, but they couldn't go
Absolutely.
anywhere. But
I know
so
what you
thank
mean.
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. Have an amazing Friday. And let's do this again. Okay. I promise I will clear my calendar. This was awesome. You made my day. So thank you.
Likewise. I will see you again real soon. Thanks, Haley. You guys check out the Haley Garcia Group if you're anywhere near Houston, Texas. Check out the Haley Garcia Group. I'm gonna make sure I put a link to it in the post and the video. Of course, I'll tag you on LinkedIn. And if you're looking for a coach, at the same time, I can't coach everybody. She is fantastic. I can say she's coached us. I mean, we were doing our Vistage training and we were all coaching each other at various points in time. But there's times you just went right in and you kind of had like this very zeroed in approach on like, no, I think I know what's going on right here. Let me just open up this perspective. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, let me just sit back here and watch. So if you're looking for a great coach, check out Haley. If you're looking for a great real estate broker, check out Haley. If you're just looking for a great friend and she's not too busy because she's really, really busy, check out Haley. She's awesome.
You know what? Thank you so much. And COVID is making me make time for things that matter like this. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad. See you soon.
Have a great weekend, my friend.
Bye.
Bye.